I've been around this game a while, and there's definitely some things Plarium does not want you to know about.
Darth is not their favorite. Not by any means. Not even a little bit.
Are you guys familiar with the concept of rake? Are you familiar with the concept of slowly bleeding out a nickel at the time? Well, unfortunately, that's sort of what Plarium does to us for resources, and you don't really realize it or realize how bad it is until you actually do. And I'm not just talking about the 100,000 silver when you're trying to remove gear. That's the most common complaint. I'm actually talking about something that seems a little bit more sinister. For example, you see these arena tokens here? If I had a 13-hour one, let's say this next one's a 5-hour one, and I go into arena and I'm doing battles and I click to do a battle and it says, would you like to fill your arena tokens? It will use the one that has the longest left to expire. Think about that. If I have a 24-hour one and the 13-hour one, you would think you should use the 13-hour one first. It's going to expire. Nope. It will purposely pick the one that has the longest left. That way, your other ones will run out and drain. Like, if I use XP banners and don't come in and collect the bottom one manually, when I say, yeah, confirm use an XP banner, it's going to automatically pick the one, this one, the one that has the longest time left. And they do that in order for you to, over time, mismanage and lose resources. That's rake, basically. The over time, small things like removing artifacts, and this annoyance is designed to drain you of resources over time. And they definitely don't want you to realize these little things, because once you start noticing them, they kind of add up, and it's like, hey, is this a casino or a game? You should actually organize it so it works properly for the user, not to optimize your rake. That's actually a fairly decent segue into number 4, which is that the Israeli developer Plarium, aka the person who owns Raid Shadow Legends, was actually purchased by a gambling casino company by the name of Aristocrat for $500 million. This is in the amount of 10x their annual earnings, meaning we can assume that Raid Shadow Legends was earning $50 million per year at the time of acquisition, and they paid out 10 times the annual earnings. I believe that has since gone up. I believe the last month that I saw was $8 million in revenue, and I believe it's only going up from there. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about this post. This is something they don't really want you to think about, because a gambling/casino company owns a gacha game and makes the decisions. So those are probably conflicts of interest. But if you want to know more about this acquisition and kind of a breakdown on something called KPIs, which are key performance indicators, and are things that Plarium tends to look for and focus on, I'm going to link the video. I'll put the card up here, or you can just look for it. Kizzo actually has a video. It's his rant video called Kizzo the Rant, and he breaks down this with the KPI factor, talks about how their revenue works and everything, a little bit more detailed, as he's from the merger and acquisition part of corporate. So he has some familiar with these type of things. Instead of me talking out of my ass, I'm going to go ahead and lean to him if you wish to know more about this. So this is going to be my number 4, because it's kind of interesting and gives a little bit more lore, backstory, whatever you want to call it, to why Raid is the way it is. So let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Number 3 is the game is actually designed like a casino, meaning you're meant to walk in, take the money out of your pockets, enjoy the game, have a good time, admittedly, and then when you're done, walk away and have nothing of value when you leave. Raid Shadow Legends is very much designed this way, in a revolving door that they're mostly focused on customer acquisition, like I've been saying. And because of that, the primary aspect of the game, and you can see this mirrored in what they advertise in their ads, is the collection of characters. You know, choose your champion, sacrifice and champion, things like that are in the ads. Even my channel is built upon collecting shards, right, and opening it up. That is fundamentally where the joy of this game comes from. Okay, now there are going to be outliers, people who, enjoy the absolute maximum in-game min-maxing and stuff, and God bless those people, because without them, we wouldn't have people doing our research for us. But the majority of the player base and their target audience is designed like a rotating door. It's not designed to be a long-term game. So number 3 point for me is that this game is not designed to be a long-term game for the players. It's designed for you to come in, they get as much money out of you as you can until you hit the point where it's no longer what you wish it to be, or you've got enough dopamine from the opening the shards, and you essentially get bored of what is admittedly a pretty bad in-game and continual bad content, which is going to move us into our point number 2. Point number 2 is going to be the fact that Plarium works off of a base of false hype. Here's how I see it, okay? Continually, we will get large-scale promises of massive improvements. I'll give you an example of the latest patch. Thorough optimization of artifacts. When you get into the game, it means they moved them a couple pixels and they updated the text, okay? Things like that are unfortunate, or they said massive game engine improvements, okay, which have yet to be really seen because the patch was the largest crashing patch we've seen to date, which is hilarious. So, and not only that, but the Nightmare campaign came out and then it was glitched the first day. These are actually bad examples because the good examples are the ones yet to come, which are things like Faction Wars, okay? So we have been waiting on Faction Wars for everyone knows entirely too long. Faction Wars comes out, it hits, it's what I think at this point we would all agree a massive failure. And we just moved on, right? We moved on to something else. And it took them forever to go back and actually fix something that came out. So it's like we have this huge amount of time, which then gets delayed. And they constantly say, okay, well, it's delayed, but we're working on this. You know, it'll be out soon, be out. But when it does come out, it's horrible. Just like we got the roadmap, but when Platinum Arena comes out, it's bad. Platinum Arena is great if you want just pure competition for competition's sake and you're okay spending money for worse rewards. Just like the events that we continually get, which is that you spend tons and tons and tons of gems for rewards that aren't even worth it. So they run on false hype. They release platforms of new content that is either functionally broken when it comes out, and then you have to fix again later, which is then arrived as new hype. Like when Faction Wars comes out in this patch, as the Faction Wars fix is one of the major improvements of the patch, that shouldn't be bonus points. That should have been the original patch. That you should be getting points for when you actually came out of Faction Wars. You can't come out with a new patch, be hyped about this patch, and have it just fixing original problems. Okay, much like adding a destroy confirmation for this inventory. I mean, really, that is my issue with it, is they run on a platform of hyping you up for content, over-promising and under-delivering, and then moving on. You know, if we're going to go back and try to fix Faction Wars again, we probably want to fix Platinum Arena while we're at it because it's not worth. I mean, we're continually releasing bad things. Again, with the Clan Boss rewards, Clan Boss, Ultra, Nightmare, Transcendent Chest, ask the majority of in-game players. They're going to say it's not worth it, okay? Unless you have an insane team and you're like too keen that, and your Clan Boss, clan clears it, or it's not worth it. I mean, the rewards continually seem to be bad. We get overpromised, underdelivered, and then they later come back and adjust it slightly, and then we just kind of forget about it. So for me, that's the frustrating part, that it's ran on a platform of overpromising, underdelivering. You know what the great irony of this video is? All of these things that Plarium don't want you to know, the number one thing that they don't want you to know is that they know all of these things. And that's really the greatest frustration. All of us YouTubers, major people in the community, content creators, people like that, we're in a YouTube chat where we talk to each other, and there is a consensus here. There's no differing of opinion when it comes to these things. The people over at Raid Shadow Legends are very aware of both our gripes as a community, as well as the kind of overwhelming change of tone the community has had over the last couple months. I would say ever since the Foley Fusion disaster, they've never fully recovered in PR. And they kind of shoot themselves in the foot over and over again by not addressing things to the public. They know what the issues are, and they tend to skate around it or overpromise, underdeliver, in order to be like, okay, you guys are upset, but this is going to be awesome, or this didn't work, so just wait for Christmas, or something. And it's kind of a bummer because it kind of feels like that person who always makes an excuse why they didn't bring you a birthday present, right? It's like, or something, you're like 12 years old, 13, and so your best friend comes over and he's like, oh, I left it at home. And then when you see them at school the next day, you're like, oh, you must have brought it. Oh, I left it at home. And then like a week later, you guys just don't talk about it anymore. That's my number one issue with Plarium. We should talk about it.